Looks like it's about that time, huh? 7 o'clock. So let's go ahead and get this party started. All right. So welcome to Federal Prison Time with RDAP Glad you all could make it tonight. Tonight's topic is going on the run. And the reason why I chose this topic, say goodbye to Shiloh. There she goes. And she's gone. The reason why I chose this topic is I have a lady that I've been dealing with for probably, I don't know, maybe about a week and a half. She's not a client. She reached out to me. She found me on YouTube somehow. And I guess she got indicted several months ago. But when they came to her house, she was not home. So she got wind of this, and she's been on the run ever since. And so when she reached out to me, originally it was just to find out, what we could do for her, letters, different things like that. And I reached out to her family, spoke to some of her children, and then kind of didn't hear anything from her for a couple of days. And now she's reached back out, but now she's not wanting to turn herself in, and she's actually talking about possibly committing suicide, even that she's attempted by taking an overdose of pills. So now this has become beyond anything that I should be dealing with. So I had to notify proper authorities because, somebody's threatening suicide, whether they're serious or they're just looking for attention. I can't be the judge of that. So I had to turn that information in. Hopefully she continues to reach out to me because, I'll still love to help her if she needs the help. But at the same time, I don't think she's looking at that much time from what she did explain to me. She sounds like she's the small man in the conspiracy, and she's just not taking it well at all. And instead of facing the music, she's on the run. And guys, when you're on the run, everybody that I've spoken to that's gone on the run before, or a lot of guys that I was in prison with, they were on the run for several years. And they said it was the worst several years of their life, always looking over their shoulder. Every time they heard a doorbell, a door knock, saw a police car, just overwhelming anxiety just follows that. So, hold on, let's see what Vlad's here. Vlad, scenario, go back for 3 years. It's not a... Vlad, I'm sorry, I missed your initial comment there. So going on the run, I imagine... for a lot of us, it sounds like, hey, that's better than going to prison. But really, it's not. Unless you're going to prison for life or 30 years, or you're going to the pen, you're going somewhere where you're going to, where it's going to be dangerous. But for the majority of you guys that watch these videos, nonviolent offenders, first-time offenders, white-collar criminals, nonviolent drug offenders, a lot of you guys, you don't realize how not that bad of a place it's actually going to be. So when you start thinking about running and you start thinking about committing suicide, I would say most of us have had those thoughts. Those thoughts have entered in our mind, and most of us haven't acted on it clearly because, here you guys are getting ready to face the music. Some people allow the anxiety and these fears to run away with them, and it can be really, really scary. Blaming everybody, not taking any responsibility. And that's where she's at right now, is blaming so many different people for the situation she's in, blaming the person that told on her, not wanting to, not wanting to deal with it. And the reality is we made these decisions, guys. And at some point we got to realize that, hey, this all is going to come to an end, and we have to be able to deal with it. And I'm here to tell you guys that federal prison is not the end of the world. There definitely is life after prison. There's plenty of potential after prison. There's plenty of job careers after prison. There's plenty of life to live after prison. And there's plenty of life to live while you're in prison. You don't have to make it this horrible experience. And most of you won't. It's just the thought of the experience is way worse than the actual experience itself. So I really want you guys to think about this topic tonight on, going on the run is definitely not the answer, because you're going to, at some point, you're going to face it. And if you go on the run, that changes the dynamics of everything from self-surrendering to going to a camp to getting possible additional halfway house. It raises your custody level. It just changes everything. Nothing good comes out of that. So I don't recommend anybody go on the run. And if you are going to call or text me and tell me that you're thinking about committing suicide, I have to turn that kind of information in. You can't tell me something like that and expect me just to think you're full of shit or you're bluffing, even though you very well may be full of shit and bluffing. I don't want to be the one to test you and brush it under the rug and then hear something on the news tomorrow. I don't want to live with that on my conscience. Hello. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to fight this cold off. Hey, Tamara. And Tamara, I'll respond to you after the video, and I'll send you a copy of that email. I did forget to send that to you from the email I sent to Ian. I apologize. Tamara is actually the one that gave me the idea to do transcripts, guys. She wanted to send a copy of one of the RDAP videos that we did, specifically speaking on RDAP. She wanted to send it in to her son because she felt the content was good content, and it was what he needed to hear at that moment. So I'm working on getting some of these made for you guys because I did some research on it, and man, these people they're not cheap. Now, Tamara's found some good little services, like some free ones where it doesn't put punctuation and all that in there. But I guess it's better than nothing, right? It's like free. If it's free, it's for me. So, guys, don't go on the run. It's not worth it. You got to challenge that negative thought and don't act on such a crazy impulse that at the end of the day that's not the answer. And running, you're not going to feel any better. You're always going to be wondering, is today the day? Got to, brother. I was overwhelmed at first, but that quickly faded once I accepted the situation. Easier said than done. There you go, Mike. And that's the thing, guys, is you got to take each day at a time. You can't just jump in everything expecting everything to get better all at once. You got to realize that every time you have a negative thought or a dwelling thought, you've got to be willing to do something to combat it, or else those dwelling negative thoughts are just going to start reinforcing and reinforcing. Before you know it, you're just living in a giant pool of anxiety, and nerves are going to be wrecked. So taking moments at a time, and when you have something that bogs you down, you have to be able to have somebody that you call. You got to have somewhere that you can go. Try not to be by yourself too often. If you are by yourself, then you have to, find people that you can pick up on the phone and talk to. Try not to drown yourself in watching YouTube videos, because one video leads to two videos. Before you know it, 5 or 6 hours of watching videos is not productive. Yes, you might be getting educated, taking notes, but if you're not doing anything with that information, if you're just listening to it, but you're not actually going out and applying anything that you've learned, either from my channel or anybody else's channel, the information doesn't do you a whole lot of good. Hold on one second. Sorry, guys. Hey, is everything okay? Oh, I'm on a video. You don't normally call, so I was making sure you're good. Okay. I do, but I'll be done in like 30, 40 minutes. All right, bye. Sorry, that's my brother-in-law. He doesn't call very often, and when he calls, it's some kind of an emergency. So, apologize. I'll probably edit that part out. Well, anyway, guys. Some days I'm just reading some of these notes. Do they have the resources to find you if you go on the run? Sure. I mean, obviously, if you make it to some other third world country and your crime's not that serious and they're not going to come looking for you, but if you're going to stay in the States and you risk any time getting pulled over, I mean, anything could go wrong. Ping your phone. I mean, they're going to want you at some point. At some point, you'll become a priority. The longer you're out there on the run, the more serious of an issue it can become. Case will never go away. They'll hunt you down forever, even if they're not physically looking for you. At some point, you'll pop up in the system, and it could be years later. I've seen guys that was I had a friend that I was in prison with. I met him in prison. He was out on bond, like a lot of you guys are now, out on pretrial, and he ran, and he got away, and he was away for years. Started a family, had kids, and then got caught and had to go to prison. Now he's got a family that he's got to leave and go to prison, and he ended up getting like 3 additional years because he was on the run. So it's just, no matter how you look at it, very rarely will it be worth it, unless there's like $1 million sitting for you somewhere that you got to go pick up, and if you don't pick it up, you're never going to be able to get it. Maybe then, there's some crazy scenario out there that might apply, but for the most of us, it's never going to be worth it to try to run and flee. Now, if you're facing life or you're facing a real enormous amount of time, I can't say that I would or wouldn't run because I have never been faced with that kind of a situation. Todd was faced with a lot of time. There's times where I was like, man, if I were him, I don't know if I'd be able to handle taking a 17-year plea. But Todd faced the music. He had the right attitude. He put in so much hard work, so much effort, took so much good direction, took in all of the exercises and the tools and the roadmap that we laid out for him, and he executed it like a trained assassin and got such a reduction on his sentence. Went from looking at originally 30 to 17, to end up getting 9 with programs, RDAP, good time. He might be out in 5 years now. So he could have very easily gone on the run, and now, because he faced it and he dealt with it, the upside and the positive consequences that he's in 5 years, he'll be done. In 5 years, he'll be free. 6 years maybe. He'll be free, and this will be behind him. He can live his life, do what he needs to do, get back on track, and take a deep breath and never have to worry about this again. Talk about something else today, making bad decisions. We're talking about choices, right? So I have another client who's in prison now. He's in the camp. He went in about maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and I'm in communication with him through Core Links on a pretty regular basis. And I talk to his wife, once or twice a week, sometimes less, sometimes more. And she called me yesterday and said that he wants to speak to me on the phone, wants to call me, that he was going to call me today, gave me like a window that he was going to call in. So I'm like, okay. So I'm waiting for a call. So today I get a phone call, and I see a regular phone number on my phone. I'm like, oh, who's this? It was him. He's in the camp using a cell phone to call me because he had some information he wanted to ask me about that he did not want to be recorded. So he's using a cell phone in the camp that is super against the rules. I mean, guys, you get caught with a cell phone in the camp, it is game over. You can kiss halfway house goodbye. You can kiss the camp goodbye. They're definitely going to put you in the shoe for 30, 40, 60 days. They're going to take away some of your good time. They're going to take away, you're not going to be able to purchase commissary probably for 1 to 3 months. You won't be able to have visitations for 1 to 3 months, and your phone calls will be limited. The only thing you'll be able to buy off commissary is hygiene and stamps. That's it. All for a fucking phone call. When he called me, and I was like, "What? How come a phone number is showing up?" And he's like, "I'm calling from a different phone." I'm just like, "Dude, you can't do that, man." I was like, "Don't put me in that situation either." Now my phone number is on a phone that you're dialing. Even if you go in and delete it, if they confiscate this phone and they start looking through the phone, I don't want to get a call from the BOP thinking that, I'm encouraging my guys that are going in there to act like that and make those kind of decisions. So, I had a very short talk with him. I didn't want to get into too much to it because I don't want him to sit there and get caught while he's talking to me on the phone. But I saved that number, so if it rings again, I'm not answering it. So guys, when you go into the camp, whatever you need to say to me, if it's that important that you don't feel you can say it over the phone or through an email, you're going to have to wait till you have a visitation and tell your wife or loved one, or you're going to have to write it in a letter and send it out snail mail. The information that he needed to tell me, it wasn't something that he needed to tell me today. Whether he tells me today or next week doesn't make a difference. He's seeing his wife this weekend. He very easily could have told her. So that immediate gratification that we all want things now, And a lot of us are used to living our lives like that, especially those of us that had, maybe higher positions or higher careers, or we were used to kind of running things and making the rules. Well, we don't make the rules in prison. We don't run shit in prison. And when you start acting like you do and you start making these unnecessary decisions, you do it once, you do it twice, the third time it gets easier, the 4, 5, 6th time you feel like you feel like you're not even doing anything wrong, and then it might be the 20th or the 30th time you get hit and you get caught. And it all goes to shit, and it was never worth it for a minute because he's trying so hard to get into RDAP. And that is the number one thing that will screw him over out of everything. So all of you that are going to a camp, at some point, you're going to see a cell phone. You're going to be offered to use the cell phone. You're going to want to use the cell phone because you're going to see so many people doing it and never getting in trouble. Well, guess what? When you use it and somebody else is using it and somebody finally gets caught and they're said, look, man, we caught you with the cell phone. You tell us who else is using it, whose phone it is. We might be willing to look the other way for you, and you throw other people under the bus. You're in prison with a bunch of people that are there for not doing the right thing. They're probably going to tell on you, and you end up getting in trouble. So stay away from the cell phones. And do not call me from the cell phone. You want to go call somebody else, call somebody else. I can't tell you what to do. But please do not call me from a cell phone in the prison camp. Not a good idea. Not a fan of that. If I would have known that call was coming from a cell phone, I would not have answered it. Do not want to be an accessory. I don't want the prison to look at me and go, here's a guy that says he's trying to help people, but yet he's encouraging him to make cell phone calls from illegal phones in prison. That probably came up someone's poop chute. Don't need it. They can identify your iris and eyes. Are you guys still talking about how the feds are going to track people down? I mean, yeah, that technology exists, guys, but, unless you're like a wanted terrorist, I don't think they're using retina scans and drones with infrared and, tracking your credit card purchases. I just imagine it's going to be a lot of, what's up, Johnny? I just imagine it's going to be a lot of looking over your shoulder and constant thinking about those kind of things, even if they don't exist. Look, even if the feds aren't looking for you, you think they're looking for you. So the anxiety level is the same. You hear a door knock, you're assuming it's the feds. You hear your phone rings and you don't know who's calling, you think it's the feds. You're afraid to leave your phone on. You're like this lady that calls me. She literally takes the battery out of her phone, puts it in just to call me or text me and tell me she, wants to commit suicide. And I clearly think she really is looking for sympathy because, they've done studies on people that try to kill themselves, and people that talk about it usually aren't the ones to do it. They're just really hurting and they're looking for something. And the best thing somebody like that can do is get caught. So I hope they catch her soon, because or else she may eventually lose her mind and hurt herself or hurt other people. So, it's just it was weird to get a text message for somebody that's on the run from a burner phone and be trying to talk them off the cliff and talk them into surrendering so they can face this and do what needs to be done and not make it any worse. Even if you're on the run, if you decide to turn yourself in versus them catching you, that's going to make it look better. If you self-surrender and say, hey, you guys have been looking for me for a couple months, I'm tired of running, here I am. That is going to look better than them finding you on their dime. All these things make a little difference. So if you do go on the run, at some point turn yourself in. All right, so Jesse, you going on the run, Jesse? Is that what you're telling us? Or you just want to go on the run? Because I don't believe you're going to run, Jesse. I think if you were going to run, you would have done it already. There's nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide. What's up, Brian? Yeah, running's not the answer, guys. That's the easy way out, I know if I had a friend or a family member that was on the run, knowing what I know now, you better not call me, because I'm not becoming part of your new conspiracy and, wanting to know what's going on. Hey, Brian, wanting to know, what all this is going on and where they are and did they call you? It's like, I don't want that fucking headache, So I would say, hey, man, if they call me, I'll tell you. And I would, because we've all been through this system. We know how this system works. The system doesn't necessarily take kindly, or they're not lenient on the fact that you can say, well, I didn't know. Being naive is not an excuse with the feds. Jesse, you're not running. So let's get off this topic of talking about where we would run and living these fantasies out. I get it. We all thought about running, but no one in this room is running. Not today. You gotta wait till the show's over. I mean, I thought about it for a minute. I had friends that told me, like, man, if I was in your position, I would run. But I think everybody says that when they're not in the position, because the longer you're in it, the more you start to kind of evolve with it and accept it and start focusing on like what's next and what's after that, and you start peeling back layer after layer after layer, and before you know it, you're like, fuck, I can't run. There'll be no life for me once I go on the run. It's over. So nobody in here is running. Ignorance of the law is no defense, in the words of my attorney. And yeah, that applies to you extra hard, Mike. Do the crime, do the time, guys. There you go, McLovin. Face that music. You play the music, you got to dance sometime, right? And it's not that bad. On the run, I'm telling you right now, on the run would have been way worse than where I was at. And, talking to Serge, talking to all these guys that are in prison right now that used to be in this room, they're all actually having a really good time for where they are. None of them are stressed. I haven't gotten really a bad email. Once in a while you hear a little like, I miss my family, but in that same email, it's I'm working out, I'm going to, I'm taking this class, I'm taking that class, I'm helping out with this. Dinner tonight was really good. We're having movie night tomorrow night. So there's so much positivity from the emails I get. And it's just a reminder of what it was like when I was there. It's not that bad. On the run would definitely be worse. Working on fake IDs and the amount of money it's going to cost. Looking over your shoulder. Nah. Not for this guy anyway. So guys, I'm going to be doing an interview with the sex offender hopefully in the next week or so. And we're going to discuss and describe and explain, what drives the addiction, why there's really no assistance out there for this type of addiction. It's such a taboo subject, and I really, really feel that it needs to be addressed. You guys have heard me talking about this now probably for months, kind of on and off the subject a little bit, not putting too much focus on it because, but I think I have an individual that is willing to discuss where his mind is and how he's gone through this and what it's done to his life and what it's done to his family. And, how do you correct these type of thoughts and these type of patterns if there's really not a whole lot of outlets to go to? Like if you're if you drink, you can go to AA. If you're using drugs, you can go to NA. You've got all of these different services and treatments that are just open up the yellow pages and boom, you can go find a group and you can go into it. But for a lot of these guys that have downloading, sexual pictures of underage, regardless whether it was children or just underage period, to have that kind of compulsion and addiction, I think it's important to hear what causes this and why they're doing it and what kind of treatment they think would be viable. obviously prison, they're going to go to prison. The person that we might be speaking to is more than likely going to prison, but prison doesn't mean he's going to get rehabilitated, right? Doesn't mean prison's going to fix anything. So what's to stop that person from coming out and having that same addiction and eventually giving in to the addiction? That's the thing with addiction. If you don't find a way to cope with it, you're going to give into it. So going to be hit. Yeah, no, and I understand that. And I'm realizing going into this treacherous water and this taboo subject that it's going to create a lot of controversy, and there's going to be a lot of people that have their opinions, and I'm not trying to change anybody's mind and say, hey, give everybody a chance. I'm not trying to do that. But what I'm trying to the point of it is look, let's look at it worst case scenario, right? Somebody goes into jail for a sex offense crime, for downloading pictures or whatever their sex offense crime is. They go into prison and there's no rehabilitation in there for them. They don't even try. They just tell them, okay, you're locked up. Do what you want to do within these confines for the next however long you're going to be in there for. And then they get out, and all the same access is right there. Yes, they're not supposed to be on computers, but that doesn't mean they're not going to get access to a computer with, not use their real name or whatever, go on there under a fake ID or whatever they do, fake identity. And who's to say next time it's not your child, my child, somebody's child, that they're downloading pictures or getting pictures of. I mean, the problem is if it's not fixed and corrected, it's just going to keep perpetuating, and it's just going to keep cycling in, cycling out, cycling in, cycling out, and nothing ever gets fixed. But it's so easy to sit there and talk shit and bash them and say they should be cast off, but they're not going to be. They're not going to get life sentences. So, so that's my thoughts on that. I feel like it needs to be dealt with and give some kind of an outlet. Sex offender properly. Vlad, what are you referring to? Sex offender properly? I'm not sure if I understand Oh, I get it. Vlad's saying, okay, I understand what you're saying, Vlad. Hey, we're not here to judge anybody. We're in the judgment-free zone here, guys. So we don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. We don't want to judge people. That's why people come to this channel, Vlad. People come here because they can kind of express their thoughts, their feelings without getting a lashing for opening up and talking. So I would appreciate if if we're respectful of one another. It's okay to have your opinion, but let's try not to just make assumptions and say because somebody doesn't want to talk about their crime or their time, or maybe they're not really looking at any time at all. Maybe it's not a real person. We don't know. But we do know that people come in the room because there's a sense of they can come in here and be themselves and talk about whatever it is they want to talk about. So that's the whole point. So we have to be willing to accept anybody that comes into the room if we want to be part of the room. That's how this community grows, guys. And we really do have the ability to help each other move into the next phase. And for some of us, that next phase might not be the same thing for the next guy. But something that I say or something that you say might touch somebody in a way that they haven't felt something yet. So everybody's growing at their own pace. El Gordo, what's going on, my man? What's going on? So, before I went to, or not before, while I was in federal prison, my outlook on sex offenders was the same as probably most people out there. What's up, Jay Tabor? This outlook out there as well. Very, no compassion, nothing. I'm not saying that I've got compassion for sex offenders, but I've identified that there's a problem with it, and I've identified that there's an illness behind it, and I've identified that there's an addiction and a compulsion that's not being dealt with. It doesn't seem like it's being dealt with anywhere. People like to expose it and make media outlets of it and make it like into a shit show of shock value. That is the only thing that I can find out there when they talk about these type of topics. But you don't really find people openly talking about it from their own experience, from what they've done, because they know how they're going to be viewed and be looked at. So the person I've got doing it it's an amazing step forward in his own progress to try to take the first step of rehabilitating himself by openly talking about what he did and owning it, and not blaming somebody else for his choices, his actions, his compulsions. Because a lot of people have addictions. Doesn't mean everybody's gonna act on them. So you got to find ways to control the addiction, or else the addiction will control you. And yeah, RDAP doesn't really touch the subject. So unfortunately, RDAP is scared of that subject. Prison in general is scared of that subject. So what else you guys got going on today? I got 18 people in the room. It's been a minute. I guess everybody's saw the topic and oh, let's go in. Somebody's on the run. I actually sent her a message. See if she responded. Does not look like she did. I told her that that she should tell her story in her own words, and I'd gladly be the outlet for her to tell her story, because she feels like she's being wrongly accused and wrongly indicted in a conspiracy, and that's part of the reason why she's not wanting to turn herself in, because then she won't be able to express herself once she turns herself in. So maybe if we give her the outlet to express herself in a little interview or something, that she can tell her side of the story, maybe then whoever else is involved in that story that's not willing to own up their part of it, maybe that will prompt them. I don't know. But I know sometimes it just feels better to talk about it. And look, when I made that first video, if you guys are new to my channel, a couple of things real quick. Please make sure you subscribe, obviously. Like my channel. Don't forget to text the word YouTube to 35074 to receive automatic notifications when we make these videos, or when we release these videos. You'll get a notification. Also, my very first video that I posted on YouTube was prior to me going into prison. I was talking about the thought of going into prison and what I was expecting and how much time I was getting, kind of where my mind was. And it was a little bit all over the place. And it's a reminder of where I am now, and I completely forgot where I was going with that. But the whole purpose, the whole reason that I have this YouTube channel, guys, is I realized when I was going through this, I felt so lost, so alone. The thought of running, the thought of hurting yourself, the thought of I wish I could be in the military on the front line, taking bullets would be better than getting ready to go to prison, and it's not. Prison is not a bad place. Not where the majority of you guys are going to be heading off to. So please make sure you guys show some love to this channel and subscribe. Any of those, look, I've got 3 guys right now that are in. 3 guys that are in prison currently that you guys have all, one of them is Sean Cowgill. These are people that you guys have spoken to, communicated with, and these guys they've got nothing. They have very little family. They have no support. They need basic things like additional hygiene and some basic, warm clothes. And, right now it's summertime in most places, thank God, but, sneakers, different things like this. Anything you guys want to do to help out, to support, to donate, that's where it all goes, guys. Any penny that you guys donate to this cause, to this channel, any penny that you guys donate, 100% goes to help these other guys. And it goes to help additional people that are coming on board that need help with the services, that need letter writing, that need more than just a pep talk, need more than just a conversation. We use whatever you guys give to support. We also donate ourselves as well to help people. So if you guys do want to donate, it's real easy. There's a money... Here, let me turn the camera around. I've done this before. Show you guys. There's a money symbol. I'm going to put the mouse over it. Right here. All you got to do is click on that. And you guys can help out. You can $1, $5, whatever it is. There's no amount is too little. Every little bit helps somebody. So it's community's method. People helping people. I know there's people out there that are struggling And I'm not asking you to help if you're struggling yourself. That's not what I'm asking you to do. But if you can afford $5 to help somebody that's in prison, $5 for somebody, that can be phone calls, that can be internet for them to be able to communicate with their family. There's so many ways that you guys can help support people. Spreading the word on this channel, getting this channel out to more people, because there's so many people. How many of you guys, before you saw this channel, felt completely clueless and helpless? How many of you, your attorney didn't really educate you too well on RDAP? You really didn't know how to get into the program. You had no idea what the first couple of days of prison was going to be like. You're imagining prison is going to be something like the TV show Oz or the HBO show Locked Up. And by coming into this channel, you're finding out more and more that prison's not the end of the world. It's giving you some breath. It's giving you some life. So if you've gotten something from this, give something back. If you can't donate $3 or $4 or $5, then make sure you post this on your Facebook page and say, hey, if you know anybody going to federal prison, you have any interest in prison at all, go check out this channel and subscribe, because it gets the word out. It's that simple. So, it amazes me. It's like you'll see people post things online, like they don't want to get a job, they don't want to work, and they've got surgeries they need. They don't want to do anything to better themselves. They want to complain and bitch and moan and cry about how shitty their life is, but they don't do anything about it. But they'll take the time to create a GoFundMe page to help them so they can go to the doctor and pay their doctor bills, but they don't want to get a job. Every one of you that is in this channel, in this chat room, in this community is been amazing, and you guys have been giving back so much by just continually to come back every week, three times a week. The majority of you guys are here. Some of you are like regulars. It's like the bar Cheers, where everybody knows your name. We come in here, we have great conversations. The room's not overwhelming. It's not overpopulated to the point where we can't see the chats. We've got it to a nice size where we can keep this community growing. And we have the ability to help these guys that were here sharing their stories with you that are now in prison and they're struggling. And it's a little bit sad when you're in prison and you don't have basic necessities. It makes your stay in prison a little bit rougher. I was fortunate while I was in prison to not have to deal with that. I had enough money when I went into prison to last me through my incarceration period. But I saw plenty of guys that didn't have any money at all, and I saw how that affected their everyday, how it affected their demeanor, how it affected their attitude, how it affected their spirits. And some of them fought through that and still maintained a good attitude. But you could see the frustration when they didn't have, everyone in the units cooking up food, and they just didn't have the ability to do so. And when you would offer them something, they were so grateful. Like a lot of these guys would never beg. They were extremely grateful when you would offer them like something that you might have made, or you give them a candy bar, you give them a bag of soup, or a tuna fish, or some peanut butter. These things go really long ways. So anyway, I appreciate everything that you guys have done. I know John Goff, a lot of you have made donations in the past, and it's very much appreciated. Just wanted to touch on that for a quick second. But yeah, you guys have made this YouTube experience really an amazing one. And, we've got over 1,000 subscribers. We're the next goal is 10,000. So some of you will probably go into prison and come back out before we get there, because this is a slow growing audience. You know what I mean? It's not like everybody and their mother that comes across this channel is going to have an interest in it. This has got to be a certain type of mindset, people that are trying to expand their mind, what prison's really like, what they can do to help people that are going to prison, what they can do to help themselves if they're going to prison. But if you're looking at potentially trying to get time off of your prison sentence, if you don't know what should be in your letters, on your personal narrative and your character reference letters, if you don't know what a personal narrative and a character reference letter are, then you definitely need to reach out and ask some questions, because these are things that you need that are going to make a difference at sentencing. We've got clients that have received probation due to their exceptional performance and what they've done from the time they got in trouble to the time they got sentenced. Direct correspondence from the judge to them at sentencing saying, we don't normally see people put this kind of effort in. We don't see letters like this every day. Most letters are just begging and pleading for mercy and probation. You can't put that in your letter and expect to get a positive outcome, because that reads like everybody else's letter. So if you're trying to find out how you can get the year off for RDAP, if you're trying to find out what you can do to get additional time in the halfway house, if you got sent to a prison that doesn't have RDAP, if you haven't done your PSR yet, your pre-sentence investigation, if you haven't done that yet, now is the time to pick up the phone and find out what your options are and make sure you're going in the right direction. Doesn't necessarily mean you and I are going to become client consultant. It just might mean I'm going to give you some direction so you can kind of go off on your own. I talk to more people in a day that are not clients than I talk to clients. And that's the vow that I made when I came up with this YouTube channel, where I didn't want to see anybody get slammed to the wall just because they can't afford $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. For those of you that have done your homework and you've shopped around and you spoke to other prison consultants, you know the damaging cost that can be. And you also know that the outcome potentially could be nothing. So to throw 15 grand out there and might not be able to get anything back for that, that's the risk you're taking. Hopefully it was explained to you that way. We explain to every client that there's zero guarantee, especially when you come to me after your PSR is done and your PSR is questionable. It doesn't have the proper information in there, and it's going to require all kinds of additional, I don't want to use the word, it's going to require additional miracles. You're going to require the BOP to be able to overlook certain things. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. And you have to be willing to accept that fact that we are going to do what we can on our part. Hopefully you're going to do what you can on your part. And if things can work out, then great. But not every time is there a positive outcome. Now, that's why I say the earlier you start the process of working towards this goal of wanting to serve the least amount of time in the best possible situation, the earlier you start that process, the better the outcome can be, because then we can give you direction, we can give you advice on what we would have done before you do your PSR. Once you do that PSR, guys, a lot of things are written. You know, the future kind of gets told. That's your little crystal ball there, and what goes into that PSR has a huge impact on what happens through the rest of your sentence. Your personal narrative and your character reference letters, how those are conducted, how they're narrated, how they're directed, that makes a huge difference at what's going to happen at the day of sentencing. A lot of times you guys might have a minimum mandatory, let's say 60-month minimum mandatory. This was something that Johnny was going through. He had a minimum mandatory of 60 months. And part of his mind might have been like, why hire a prison consultant if I know best case scenario I'm going to get 60 months? Because you have to think about the worst case scenario too. If you've got a minimum mandatory of 60 months, that just means that's your best case scenario, which means that's the scenario you want because that's as good as it can get. So you have to fight just as hard for that as the other guy that's fighting for probation, because hey, we've all seen it where the judge goes above the guidelines or goes higher than your minimum mandatory. Says, yeah, your minimum's 60 months, but I don't feel you're remorseful. I don't feel you put any effort into this. I don't feel like you're taking this serious. So I feel like you deserve 120 months or 80 months, whatever it is. So you want to make sure that you can have the best possible chance at an amazing outcome. And the only way you can do that is by starting now and fighting all the way to the finish line. 12 rounds, guys. You got to go all 12 rounds. We don't want any KOs. We don't want anybody getting knocked out in the third round. Dan, why is there not an RDAP program for non-drug offenders? There is, John. It's called, I forgot what it's called, but it's not popular because it doesn't give any time off. And your crime doesn't have to be, to get RDAP, guys, you don't have to have a drug crime. Your crime doesn't have to be drug related. Your crime could have nothing to do with drugs at all. You could be dealing in stolen property. You could be just a white-collar criminal that embezzled millions of dollars, but you have to have a drug addiction to get into RDAP. So your crime, and I get that call a lot, I get that question a lot, is my crime is not a drug-related crime. Can I qualify for RDAP? Well, the answer to that is, yes, if you qualify based on your substance abuse and based on, it can't be violent, can't be a gun charge where the gun was actually used in the crime. We are seeing guys get in the program now that have gun enhancements, like the house got raided or whatever, and they found a gun in the house, and maybe they had a gun permit, but they got charged with the enhancement because it was part of the scene of the crime. As long as it doesn't make it a violent crime where the gun was used what wasn't used in the crime, in the instant offense, then RDAP is still on the table, which it didn't used to be. Sorry, just reading some of these questions you guys had here. You guys had a lot of questions really fast here. I didn't get a chance to peep them all. If I missed any questions here, feel free to re-ask. It showed red. Where did you send them, Mary? Did you send them on through my email, or was it Facebook or Instagram or? Dan, can you talk about your fees? My fees, I charge a flat fee, guy. I charge $1,495, $1,495. My fees used to be more than that, but since I first started, I was able to get the team that I work with, my writers, to reduce their fees, which gave that trickle down effect. So I charge $1,495. That's what I charge, whether you need one service or whether you need all of the services. And then for those of you that are on on tight budgets, or we have payment plans we have available, and then we also have sponsors that are willing to a couple times a month. I've got guys that will do sponsoring where they'll pick up a portion of the tab. They pay the difference. And then don't forget, we have the contest going right now, right? All you got to do is what is it again? You got to text the word June 30, June 30, all one word, June 30 to 35074. So text the word June 30, all one word, to 35074. It's putting you in a contest that we are giving the winner, which will be notified on June 30th. The winner is receiving a full-service consulting package, everything from letters to preparing for RDAP to helping you with your PSR to additional halfway house to the whole life coaching aspect of it, making sure you have tools and exercises to deal with that crazy anxiety that just beats us up at night. So that's absolutely free. We want to, we're trying to give back. That was our 1,000 subscriber give back for you guys helping us get to 1,000 subscribers. We wanted to give somebody back that, and we're probably going to do that. We might do it every month. We're going to see how this month goes and see. I think right now we've got about 25 people that have entered. So it's obviously there's a lot of people out, and this isn't just for people that can't afford it. This is anybody can apply for this or enter this. Just make sure that if we find out that the same person is using multiple phone numbers to increase their odds, then your registration will be revoked, yanked. So there you go. What are we asking pretrial officer? Dan, when would I know? When would I get a letter talking about self-surrendering or where I'm going to get designated? I got my letter like a week before it was time to self-surrender. But if you call your probation officer, they usually will know before you get that letter in the mail. So you can call your probation officer, but usually it comes in the mail, or you get a phone call, or it might come in regular mail. I've heard of guys getting it all different types of ways. But that was weird, and I missed it. I got certified. I had a certified note on my door from the post office saying, certified mail, you weren't here. Come to the post office to pick it up. And I was like, son of a... And I knew what it was, so I was scared because I didn't know where I was going. I was hoping I was going to Coleman because that's where I wanted to go. But that's where I got to go. Can you look into what one is called? Dan, I've already been on the run for 14 years, not going to turn myself in. The charge will be there for life, certainly. You're right about everything you said. Wow, you've been on the run for 14 years, Vlad? That's insane, my man. We should do I would love to do an interview with you. You talking about that and what it's been like, because that's a long time to be on the run. At this point, you must feel like it's just another day. I'm sure you've gotten used to the uncomfortableness, but wow, that's pretty crazy. I would love to hear that story, and obviously I'm not asking you to offer or volunteer any information as to where you are, just talking about the mind frame and what made you do it and why you did it and how it's been and how it's affected you negatively and anything good's come out of it. That would be a really interesting story, my man. So if you're ever down for that, let me know. We can set that up. But yeah, I love doing unique interviews. We're gonna do one with Will Townsend soon too. Will Townsend is the guy that received disqualified. Well, I just saw your text message, Tamara. I'll read that with a little bit more attention after the video is over. Good question. I have 11 days, and I haven't found out yet. Also, question: if you self-surrender to the courthouse, do they take you to the camp? No. If you self-surrender to the here, guys. Here's a lot of people will ask. Oh, we got Mr. Kiki Man in the background over here. A lot of people ask if you don't get your self-surrender paperwork and where to surrender. At that point, you surrender to the marshals. When you surrender to the marshals, you're not going to go from there to the camp. The marshals are going to take you to county jail. You're going to sit in county jail for a period of time, weeks probably, before you get put on a transfer list to go to prison. And then it'll probably be another couple of weeks transfer where you go from one place to another where they pick up other guys, and then you might stay a couple of days, a week in one place. So it is not fun. Transferring or not self-surrendering is not fun. So if you have the ability to self-surrender, do it. I just had a client who found that out the day of, called me up, told me he was couldn't self-surrender to the prison because he didn't have a way to get there, or it's one thing, he didn't have a way. He didn't want to pay the extra money. He's like, I'll just turn myself into the marshals and let them take me. And when I explained to him what's going to happen, he kind of freaked out a little bit, and it was because that's what it was. He wanted to, instead of self-surrendering to the prison, he wanted to spend a couple of extra days at home with his family, because it was like a 2-day drive or whatever. So he wanted to spend a couple extra days at home and then just turn himself into the U.S. Marshals, thinking the U.S. Marshals were just going to immediately take him within a couple of days to the actual prison. That's not the case. You're going to get brought to that county, wherever you turn yourself into. You're going to go to county jail for a couple of weeks probably. Then you're going to get transferred to prison, but you're going to go from holding to holding to holding until you get to your final destination. So figure out where you're going, and if you don't know yet, if you got 11 days, start calling your pretrial probation officer and asking him if he's got your designation yet to where you need to go. Yeah, wherever you go, once you're in the marshal's custody, you're fully locked up, man. When you do any kind of transfer, it's cuffs on your hands, cuffs on your ankles, linked from your hands to your ankles, and you're barely move. You're probably linked to other guys. It's not fun. I unfortunately I didn't do it when I self-surrendered, but when I originally got picked up on my charge, I sat in county jail for a couple of weeks, and they brought me from one county jail to another county jail. When the U.S. Marshals transported me, it was uncomfortable. You can't even reach your nose because your hands can only go about that high because they're stuck to there's a chain around your waist that your handcuffs are attached to, so you can only reach, worst experience. Those experiences are what stands out in my mind. Those are what I remember as being like dreadful, were those type of experiences, which were very far and few in between, thank freaking God. So yeah, hopefully none of you have to go through that. I really, really hope you don't. So, try not to have to turn yourselves into the U.S. Marshals. Try to be able to turn yourselves into the camp, because you'll never touch a pair of handcuffs when you go to the camp unless you get in trouble. You probably never even see handcuffs. You might see 1 or 2 cops the entire day in a camp. That's how wide open it is. That's why people get risque and start playing with cell phones thinking they're untouchable. Still can't believe that guy called me today from a cell phone from in prison. What was he thinking? God. If he calls tomorrow, I'm not answering. I told him, you got to call me from the prison phone, man. If it's something you can't talk about, send me a letter. And it wasn't that serious. Wasn't that serious. I'm out of water. Kiki, man. Psst, psst, psst. That's my gray cat. He's old. He's like, I guess you're 14 now, huh, Kiki? 14-year-old gray cat. He's like a dog. Sleeps in my bed. Surprised he's not over here trying to lay on the keyboard. I wonder where I'll be going. Attorney said a camp, but that usually means a low. I guess Michael's saying you can never trust the attorney. Michael, do you have your surrender date yet, Mike? I don't think you did. Did you? No, you haven't even been sentenced yet, have you? My brain's dead right now. I've got everybody's file with 1 million notes in it. Dan did a video on self-surrender. Tells it all. Well, thank you. I don't even remember. I'm sure I did do a video on self-surrendering. Maybe I should do an update. Maybe we should do an update video. You guys let me know. Hey, do me a favor. Don't type it in here, because nobody can read this shit later on. Post in the comments what topic you guys would like to hear about on Saturday. Who's today? Wednesday. On Saturday, what topic would you guys like to hear about on Saturday? We're going to take a little poll here. Post it in the comments down below. So everybody does on YouTube. The comments down below. Post it in the comments down below. And we will, maybe that's what we'll talk about. Live chats really relieve anxiety. Yeah, that's why I do them, Crystal. Even though they're long. Well, we're at an hour right now, which means it's time to wrap it up. Got to wrap it up. But, it's the reason why I do the live chats is because you guys get to unwind some of that anxiety. You get to engage and talk about some stuff. So do me a favor, please, guys. I'll love you guys if you do this. Nobody ever does it. There's not enough comments. We need more comments posted on the videos. That way people know what's going on in the videos. Post in the comments what you liked about the video. Post what you don't like about the video. What you want me to see do different next time on the video. If you want to see some more animals in the background. If you want Kiki Man to come visit us. But yeah, post it in the videos, guys, and we will talk about that. Brian James, good night. Crystal, good night. Michael, good night. Mulinesque, 1. What is Halfway House like? What do you do every day? Laundry, food, work, sleep. If that's what you guys want to talk about on Saturday, post that in the comments on the video, on the description, and we will have maybe that's what we'll do. Maybe we'll talk about the Halfway House on Saturday. But please post it on the video, guys. I'm RDAPdan. You guys are amazing. Kiki, you can't go that way. You're gonna turn Kiki's trying to cross over. Get away. All right, guys. Nope. Hold on a second. This cat. Meow. Fucking cat runs the house, man. This cat runs shit around here. All right, guys. I'm RDAPdan. Have an amazing vote. Please put it in the comments. I'll talk to you guys Saturday. Love, peace. Love every single one of you. People helping people. Communities method. I'm RDAPdan, and I'm out. Wait a minute. Am I out? Now I'm out.